It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighbor. Won't you be mine? Oh, hi there. What am I doing? Man, you already know what it is. Jay Williams, let's live life, and we're back. Feeling a lot better, man. I appreciate the wisdom that a lot of you guys hold. Somebody told me once, they said, you listen to an idiot long enough, he'll say something that makes sense. You guys aren't idiots, man. You've proven that. I have some of the best subscribers, viewers, supporters you could ever ask for, man. You guys truly are amazing. And I thank each and every one of y'all for reaching out, your words of advice. Don't think that I don't listen, because I do. I wouldn't ask for advice if I wasn't going to listen. I'm human. Been through a lot, dealt with a lot, seen a lot, and it affects me. I'm used to dealing with things one way, and when I'm not able to do that, I kind of, my mind goes all over the place because I don't know what to do. Even though I know what I can't do, I know what I want to do, but I can't do it, and I want to do it. And it's a lot to take in at times. But I feel like since that last video, I've come to peace. I've come to terms with not letting things that are out of my control affect me. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was letting things that I couldn't control, I had no say-so in the matter, affect me. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on myself when it comes to those type of things. So once again, thank you all. Today's video, difference in the West Coast and the East Coast prisons. A lot of this is what I know from YouTube. A lot of it is what I know from talking to guys out west. It's not just my opinion. I can tell you a whole lot about the East and where I've been at. And I sat down and talked to some guys out west for a couple of hours, man. Just going over their entry process, how their yards are ran, the whole clicking up with races, the gang politics, the way the guards are, the housing environment and the all-around environment. Spent a lot of time talking to these guys. These are guys that have been at Folsom, Old Folsom, major prisons out west that know what they're talking about. I'm talking about guys that did 20 plus years in Cali's Department of Corrections. So that's what we're doing today. The differences in the West Coast and the East Coast. There's a lot of differences. I was kind of blown away by some of the things the guys were telling me. And also, look for in the future, I'm going to do a sit down with my dude, Dirty Weather 916, Nate Dogg 916, where we're going to say a word. And the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to prison, you talk on it. That's coming up here soon. But today we are comparing West Coast prisons to East Coast prisons. The good, the bad, the ugly. What's good about that? What's bad about that? What's good about this? What's bad about this? Is what they're doing right? Is what they're doing right? Or is it wrong? Is what we're doing wrong? Or is it right? Is there a right or wrong when it comes to prison? And why things run the way they do? Y'all know how to seen it. You know how to lived it. So let's relive it. So the guy I spoke to on this issue is a viewer. He emailed me and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about how things run out in the West. I watch your videos, love your videos. I'm intrigued by how things run out there, because that's what he said. He said, that sounds sweet. He was like, out here, it ain't like that. Now, he asked me not to say his name, not to reveal who he is. He's an active gang member with over 20 years in California's Department of Corrections. Been doing this a long time, from California State Prison near Folsom to Folsom, Old Folsom. Like, he's been all throughout the system out there in Cali. One of the first things he said is he was amazed at the fact that we don't have protective custody. So let's get into that. That's the first thing we're going to touch on, is the whole protective custody aspect of things. Out here, you find yourself in trouble, scared for your life, can't take the heat, need to get away. You fear for your life. You got bad charges. You done told on somebody. The inmate population wants to hurt you. There's a price on your head. Everybody wants to get at you. There is no yard that you will go walk. There is no designated part of the prison where everybody there is afraid of population or can't be in population. Out here on the East, we have what's called long-term segregation, which means you will be taken, placed in the hole, and you will stay there. And you can come out at any moment if you're willing to go back to the yard. But if not, you will be in that cell 23 hours a day. You will not come out into a day room with other inmates. Now, if you're up at a higher level because you've done things wrong, you will. You can work a job, do things like that, come out a couple hours a day. But if you are in the hole because you volunteered, and volunteered, the process of that is you go to the guards, you say, hey, look, check it out. I fear for my life. Yeah. I got locked up because I was touching parts of people I shouldn't be touching, or I was touching on somebody's child, or I violated a woman. I had, a charge pertaining to a woman. A lot of guys ain't feeling that. Guys got mothers at home, wives at home, daughters and sisters. Some of these women have fell victim to these type of men. And though they can't get their hands on the man that did it, here you come, thinking everything's going to be sweet. And then it comes out what you did, and now you've got this guy that his number one mission in life is to take your life. What are you going to do? You can go head up with him, but then you got another guy that's going to come at you, and another guy that's going to come at you, and organizations that are going to come at you. And in due time, you're going to get hurt real bad, possibly lose your life. That's when these guys go to the guards and say, hey, I fear for my life. What you want us to do? Put me in the hole. Well, we can't put you in the hole if you haven't done anything. I've seen this done a lot of times. Guys will literally gather all their belongings, everything they own, which isn't a whole lot, maybe a couple trash bags and stuff, and they will drag it out in the day room, right at the table, and they will sit down. The guards will come over the loudspeaker and say, everybody locked down for count. It is now count time, lock in your cells. And this inmate, knowing he's got bad charges, knowing it ain't gonna be long before he gets hurt, he just sits there in the middle of the room. Now, he's interfering with count time. If he's not in that cell and they tell him to lock down, they're gonna come out there and they're gonna tell him, hey, sir, you need to go lock in your cell. No. We're gonna tell you one more time to lock in your cell. If not, you will be handcuffed and taken to the hole. No. What he's doing is called a check-in move. He's checking into the hole. He's not going to live in general population. He's scared for his life. Lock me in a cell by myself for the remainder of my time. However long that may be. Some guys have been in the hole 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That is a fact. And they come around every now and then and they say, hey, you're up for review. Your whole time is up where you refused to lock in your cell. You're eligible to go back to population. No. You're refusing to go back to population? That is correct. Well, if you're refusing a direct order, you're going to get another 30 days in the hole. Thank you. And they continue to sit in the hole. They do this time and time again until the officers understand that, and this guy ain't going to never come out the hole. He would rather be in here until the day he dies rather than have somebody out there determine the day he dies. That happens a lot. Guys will also run up debts and go to long-term segregation. They'll go to the hole. Guys will claim gangs that they're not part of. Then it comes out there false flagging, and now the real gang members want to get at them. They'll go to the hole. That's how things are done out here. You are going to eat in that cell. You're going to do everything in that cell. Some places even bring the shower right to the cell. It comes up to the cell. It bolts on the outside of the door. They slide the door and you step in. And it's almost like a water hose that comes down. And you stand under it and you wash. The phone is rolled to your cell door. It's got a long cord on it. And some places even have the old house phone with the pull-out antenna. Once a week, you will get your little phone call, but it will be made from your cell. They will bring you out of your cell for 1 hour a day, at which time you go outside and you go into a dog kennel. Most of these are about 6 by 6. Some places maybe 8 by 8, 8 by 10. But you're in there and you're in there by yourself. Cage all the way around you. Cage above you. Maybe 7 foot tall. Some places even 6 foot tall. So if you're tall, you have to slouch down. And that is your recreation for however long you are going to be in the hole. If you decide to stay in here and you got a 25-year sentence, the only exercise or outside daylight you see will be inside of that little dog cage. Now when you go to the pound, you see the dogs inside the cages, it's just like that. They'll walk you out there and you'll go out there and they'll have you in handcuffs, you back up to the cage, and they unhandcuff you. Usually rub your wrist because they're sore. And then they walk off. There's nobody else in the cage. There was a time when I first got to prison where everybody in the hole went into one big dog cage. That was treacherous. You and that man just had problems yesterday. Both of y'all still got scratches and cuts from fighting. The following morning, y'all both gone to the hole that night. The officers got wind, locked both of you up. The following morning, they're going to take you both outside, along with everybody else in the hole, and throw you into a big cage. They're going to lock you in there, and they're not going to stand there and watch and see if you're okay. The guard is going to go back inside the building because he's not going to stand outside where it's hot. There's no camera to watch you. If it's wintertime, he's going to go back into the building in the control booth where it's warm. He's not going to stand out there and freeze and watch you. So now you and the man that you just had problems with are back at it. It's survival of the fittest. If you're scared of him, the only thing you can do is deny rec and sit in the hole. Don't get to come out for that hour each day. If you work your way to the point to where you get visits, regular visits, you sit down with your visitors face to face. You're able to buy snacks from the vending machine. Your people bring in a bag of quarters and they go to the vending machine. Get your sodas, chips, cookies. There's microwavable sandwiches, things like that. And you can sit down. You get to embrace your loved one at the beginning of your visits. When you're in the hole, you don't get none of that. You go over there for 30 minutes, you sit down, and there's a bulletproof glass in front of you. Sometimes the glass have holes drilled in it where you can lean forward and talk through it. And sometimes there's a phone hanging there. You keep your handcuffs on. So you reach up with your handcuffs on, get the phone, and you sit there and talk to your visits. That's what you're going to do if you're scared on the East Coast. On the West Coast, they have the SNY, Sensitive Needs Yard. This yard, well, consists of everybody that did exactly what I talked about that does the long-term segregation over here. Except with that yard, it runs just like any other part of the prison, except everybody there is there because they're scared or because they've been deemed not able to be in general population for a lot of different reasons. Gang dropouts being number one. True fact, California prisons have the largest PC, protected custody population in the United States, with 32% of their inmates being on a SNY yard, a sensitive needs yard. 32% of their inmates can't go in the GP, general population, because they know that somebody's going to put a bag on their head. Out there, things move differently. If someone tells you, go get him, you go get him. And if you don't go get him, the guys that told you to get him are going to get you. These guys, they don't spend 23 hours a day in a cell. When they go to rec, they go out on the yard like everybody else in the prison. They don't go into a dog cage. They program and go to school. When I mean program, I mean school. They make friends. They go to chow. They live in a cell with somebody else. Long-term housing for child molesters, gang dropouts, scary guys, guys that have snitched on people, guys that have dropped out of their gangs and then told on their organizations. Homeboy told me, he said, I said, so essentially if you go on the SNY, you're safe. He said, no. Not at all. He said, I'd seen situations where dudes would send their own onto the SNY yard. You're going to go to the people. You're going to tell them you're no longer a part of the gang. You're going to lie. And you're going to get yourself up off this yard. And you're going to get over to the SNY yard. And then when you get to the SNY yard, you're going to stab that boy up and kill him. At which point then you're going to be shipped off to where you're going to do a lot of segregation. We'll get into that in a minute. So out there, when you go to an SNY yard, a PC yard, you may feel like you're safe, but you're not. You're not untouchable. They get guys to infiltrate the SNY yards and get at you. So you may be safe for a little while. And depending on how bad whatever you've done is to get you put over there, you may or may not be gotten at. But dude told me, he said, the SNY yard's not going to keep you safe. It may for a little bit, but if you've got, touchy charges where you like to touch on people's children, violate women, hurt women, do things like that, somebody needs to get at you. Somebody wants to build a name for themselves. Somebody wants more rank than what they have. So they're going to do everything. They're going to go through the whole process of getting over to the SNY yard. When they get there, that's your ass. Here, long-term segregation. No real interactions with other inmates. Single cell, dog cage, cuffed everywhere you go. You don't get to kick it with nobody else. Out west, an entire population of people all interacting with each other, all mingling, talking, walking the yard, chow hall, school, living in cells with each other. But you're not as safe as you would be out here. Ask yourself this. If somebody was trying to get at you, somebody wanted to kill you, would you rather be locked in a concrete box all day, where you know the only person that can come in that cell is a guard with a key? Or would you rather be on a yard where in due time, somebody's going to lie and tell them, I fear for my life. I dropped out of my gang. Or I told on a bunch of people. Or back in the day, I did this. You got to put me on that yard. Where you'll be safe for a little while. But if they really want you, they're going to get you. Long-term segregation, sensitive needs yard. No PC, SNY. Let's get into the next difference. There's so much to talk about this, I have to pick and choose what to talk about. With the first section, for anybody that was on the SNY yard, this was not shots at you. These were just the facts. If you take it personal, then you fell in that category. Second thing that comes to mind that stood out to me in our conversations was the paperwork. He told me it is mandatory out west to show your paperwork. Your paperwork is why you're locked up. It's your jacket. It's your criminal history. Guys are going to want to see that the moment you get in there, to see your paperwork. I said, well, out here, you don't usually show up with your property. They send your property before you, or they'll send it after you. So you might come in the cell with nothing. He said, nah, that ain't the way it is out west. If you ain't got nothing, you better have that paperwork. I said, well, if you ain't got none of your property, how? He said, what you mean? How do you think you get something from one place to the next? If you got something you have to have on you, and they're going to strip you time and time again and search you, what do you think it is? In my shoe? Nope. In your sock? Under the sole of your shoe? Wrong again. Well, if it's not none of them places, oh no. It's in your man purse. You boofed it. Put it straight in Hershey Highway. Yeah. He said, you're going to wrap that up in saran wrap so it doesn't get all pooed on. You're going to lube it up and right up in there it goes. He said, as soon as you step on that yard or you step into that cell, you have to produce your paperwork. It's not a matter of can you produce your paperwork. You have to produce your paperwork. And if you do not have your paperwork, knowing that you got to have your paperwork, then that tells everybody around you that you have something to hide, that you got some bad charges. Guys are going to check you with a fine-tooth comb from A to Z and find out why you're in there. And if it's bad, it's bad. We don't do that out here. He said that is everywhere out there. He said, I don't care where you're at. It's mandatory. Now, I can say this. I program according to where I'm at. If I was out west, I would follow the West politics. That's why I never throw shade at, well, y'all click up by race, or y'all do this, or y'all do that. I understand. You don't control the prison. You don't make the rules. You fall in line with how the prison is run. So me being out in the East, I do what's been going on forever out here. I didn't create it. I didn't make it. I can't change it or modify it. I do what they do. If I was out west, then I guess, damn, I'd have paperwork in my, oh man, that's just bad. Here on the East, a lot of the gangs will require paperwork. They're the ones that check paperwork. If you're going to be part of an organization, a lot of times they need to know why you're locked up, even though they don't always do it. If somebody else vouches for you, a lot of these guys, that's good enough for them. Man, I know a dude from the streets. He's a hitter. He's a dope boy. He's a shooter. Plays with them pistols. Nah, he ain't got no bad charges, man. Hey, you just vouched for him, right? That's all we need to hear. Now, if it comes back that what you said is wrong, or that he has some charges even you didn't know about, well, you vouched for him. So now they're going to go with him and they're going to go with you because you validated him. You stamped him. You gave him the approval. And now he's gang, all based off of your word. Out west, it doesn't matter if you gangbang. It doesn't matter if you're Jimmy Neutron, Sammy Sausage Head, Jimmy Green Bean. They're going to know why you're locked up. And if they don't like it, don't agree with it, and the charges are bad, well, you better hurry up and try to get to that SNY yard before they can get to you. Another difference between the two. On the East, your paperwork will only consist of your current charges. It doesn't list everything you've ever been arrested for. It just states what your current offense is. It just states what you're currently locked up for. He said out west, they want to know everything you've been arrested for. So out here, you could have been the guy that likes to touch things, the guy that likes to mess with children and mess with women. And that could have been years ago, right? Now you then caught a robbery charge or a gun charge or something, that's got you locked up. So when you pull out and you do show somebody, if somebody wants to know why you're locked up, and you do have the paperwork and you pull it out, it's only going to state the reason you're currently locked up. It's not going to talk about the stuff from back in the day. He said out there, they want to know everything. It's going to show everything that you've been in trouble for. There's the two differences. On the East, it just states your current charges. On the West, oh no, everything is there. So you can't hide. Out here, it's not mandatory, but I was always somebody that if you were going to live in the cell with me, I needed to know what you were locked up for. I'm not going to take your word for it. I need to know why you are locked up. If that means I got to call home to my people and say, hey, and this was when AOL was still around. Hey, jump on AOL and type this dude's name in, or go to the courts and pull his papers, which a lot of people ain't doing that. But you're going to find out why this man is locked up if he's living in the cell with you. Because me and you can't live together if you've violated somebody. We can't sit here and laugh and tell stories and become friends when you're a weirdo, a sicko, chomo. No. Not going to happen. That's why they do what they do out west. So you never even get to that point. We're going to know right from the gate who you are and if who you say you are is real. Now, with not checking paperwork on the East Coast and not being mandatory to check paperwork, a lot of guys fly right below the radar. You can walk the yard with a guy for many, many years and think he's solid. Get out of prison and somebody else be like, hey, you was locked up with who? You know he had bad charges, right? Nah. Everybody told me dude was solid. He may have been solid, but he had bad charges. Yeah, but he was in prison for robbery, right? Yeah, he was in prison for robbery. This go round. But last time he was in prison was for molestation. Or, you know, when you seen him the first time he was in prison for robbery, yeah, what about it? You know he got out? No, I didn't know he got out. I thought he just went to another prison. No, he got out. Yeah, but then I seen him again. Yeah, he returned with bad charges. But because you know him and you knew his charges in the past, you have no question to guess why he's locked up, because he's solid. Nah, they're going to constantly, everywhere you go out west, they're going to check your paperwork. And if it ain't right, that's where the fight or flight comes into play. That's where the SNY yard comes into play. Let's get into the next one. Now, this last one, I'm kind of glad dude cleared up for me, because I didn't know. I've told y'all in the past, as far as segregation goes, hanging out with who you want to hang out with, mixing races, it's not frowned upon out here. You can be whoever you want to be. Hang out with whoever you want to hang out with. Nobody's going to say a word. I kicked it with pretty much any race you could think about while locked up. Black friends, white friends, Spanish friends, Asian friends, guys from different gangs, different organizations. If I wanted to kick it with you and you were all right, there was no prison rule that said I could not. Now, I'd always heard that coming into the West Coast prisons, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to where your race is. Me being white, I would go to the woodpile. If I was black, I would go with the black car, or, you know, Spanish or Asian, and so on and so on. We never segregated out here. To this day, we do not segregate. Like I said, kick it with who you want to kick it with. As long as you're likable, you don't run around starting stuff, don't nobody care. If you're a troublemaker, then pretty much, you know, most people in general are going to stay away from you because they don't want to be associated with you. Now, you've got the West Coast where it is an unwritten rule. It is just part of the politics. It's part of the prison rules. That when you come in, you go with your own kind. Now, I first looked at that when I heard that, and it all came to my attention years ago. This is honestly what I thought. I said, all right, what happened is, at one point or another, this race was getting picked on by this race. So to keep guys from this race safe, they all join together, and then all these guys join together. Now, if this race wants to pick on this race, they got to deal with that whole race. He said there is some truth to that. He said, but for the most part, what it does in putting people where their own is, it cuts back on the stupidity. It cuts back on the violence. Over here, it's chaotic. That's just the facts of the matter. You see white dudes and black dudes fighting, Spanish dudes and black dudes and white dudes fighting. If you and this man have a problem, you two can go at it. You don't have to be worried about there being a full-fledged race war. With everybody clicking to their own race out there, everybody is held accountable by their race. So with me being a white guy, if I'm running around doing something that is making me look bad, well, then it makes all the other white guys look bad. If I'm running around causing trouble, the white guys are going to deal with me. They're going to snatch me up and handle me. Opposed to out here, if I'm running around doing that, then whoever I run into having a problem with, they're going to snatch me up and handle me, and the rest of the white guys ain't got nothing to worry about because we all stand 10 toes down on our own feet. He said they also program. And I've heard of programming, but I didn't know the full depths of programming. He said it's real militant. He was like, as far as like mental, physical, he said we move militant. He said, we work out. It's mandatory. He said, every now and then you'll have somebody that's really old that'll get a pass. Somebody that have a medical condition that's not just, oh man, my knee hurts. No, they've got a serious medical condition that, you know, walk with a crutch or a walker or something that keeps them from working out. But other than that, it's mandatory that when everybody works out, you show up and you work out. And if you do not, he said, guys are going to show up. And where was you at? Why you ain't come program today? Man, you know my stomach was feeling that. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody's going to beat you up. Because everybody else is watching. And if you let your guys get away with things and not do what they're told, then the other guys are sitting back watching. They see that as a sign of weakness. Now, if they want to attack one of yours, it's a no-go. There's somebody that's high up with each race. The guy that, I don't know if you would say he holds the keys, but he's more or less the shot caller when it comes to that race. If this race has a problem with this race, these two guys are going to get together and they're going to talk about it. And they're going to figure it out. He said he's seen situations where they've said, you know what? We've already done everything what we can do to him. Y'all can have him. Meaning he gives them the red light, the green light to go ahead and just do what they want to do to him. He said, but that's very rare. He said most time we handle our own. It makes things run much, much smoother. Which brought me up to the question of, so me being a white guy and you being of another race, me and you wouldn't be able to hang out and talk? He said, no, we could talk. We could kick it. And I mean kick it like in passing. He said, but we couldn't be all buddy-buddy every day because my race is going to be looking at me and your race is going to be looking at you. And now y'all are going against the politics in the prison. He said, there's nothing wrong with walking by and saying, hey, what's up, man? And keeping it moving. But as far as me spending all my time with a black guy or spending all my days with the Spanish guys or the Asian guys, well, now my race is going to look at me as a traitor. They're going to look at me as if I'm making everybody look bad, so they're going to hold me accountable. They're going to come at me. That was kind of crazy to me, but as he broke it down more and more and more, I started to understand why. Like he said, it cuts back on the nonsense. You know that you can't disrespect them black dudes because, well, my race is gonna handle me. I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that, because they're gonna handle me. And worst case scenario is my race says, get him from over here and shuns me, because it's all, once I don't have them behind me, it's open season. Everybody can come at me. We have gangs on the east, they have gangs on the west. Same thing. Except he said out there, he said, what happens when somebody gets caught claiming a gang out in the east and it comes out that that's not really their gang or that just made that up? I said, they're going to get jumped, beat up. What about out west? He said, oh, they're going to try to X them out. They're going to try to kill you. He said, they're going to send somebody at you on a mission to try to take you all the way up out of here. That is what's going to happen. He said, out here, soon as you get in the system, everybody wants to know, first of all, you're going to click up according to where you're from, who your race is, but people also want to know where you're from. Are you active or non-active? Meaning, what part of Cali are you from? Do you gangbang? And if you don't gangbang, did you used to gangbang? Out here, unless you got tattoos that clearly show that you were once part of an organization, people aren't going to approach you asking you if you're active or non-active. They're not going to approach you asking you where you're from. I've seen guys for many years just fly right below the radar. Don't talk to nobody. Neutrons. Stay to themselves. Where's he from? I don't know. What's he locked up for? I don't know. Is he gangbang? Man, I don't know. Don't nobody know nothing about the dude. They don't ever talk. That's another big difference. He also said that out west, when they go at it, he said, we go at it. He said, I'm talking race-wise. He said, have you ever seen race wars? I said, I've seen races fight, but it would be like the racist gangs, like Aryans and stuff like that, get into it with other gangs. He's like, nah, I'm talking white dudes and black dudes have something going on with the drugs hit the yard, and somebody does something and it makes it back to this other race. Now everybody straps up and everybody goes to war. He said, I have seen entire yards be divided by race. He said, then you see all the races at once clash. He said he had seen it be black versus white. He had seen it be Spanish versus black. And then he had seen it where all the races, the Asians, the blacks, the whites, the Spanish, all had come to an agreement that there was going to be a war, and everybody crashes out. To me, that was crazy. I couldn't imagine, and this is because of me doing my time out here, with me being able to kick it with guys from every single race, that I'll wake up one day and be told by guys of my own race that I've got to go out there and attack all these guys that I'm cool with because of the color of their skin. But like he told me, he said, you politic the way you politic on the East Coast because that's the way it was set in place. I politic out here the way I do because that's the way it's set in place. You need to understand this. I didn't make the rules out here. He didn't make the rules out west. You fall in line. When you come into the system, you come into the jails, you come into the prison, you are going to do what everybody else is doing. I said, what if I'm a white dude and I come in and I say, man, nah, I kick it with black dudes. He said, you're going to be looked at as a traitor and they're going to come for you. Your own race is going to try to take you out. I said, so are the black dudes going to protect me? No, they're not going to. Because then it's going to put them at war with your race. He said, now, if you're from one of those neighborhoods, like say you're a white dude from an all-black neighborhood and you're known, like they know you in the streets, and you hit the prison yards and they're like, nah, to hell with his skin color, he's with us. He said, then you can go over there, but you better believe that around every turn and every corner, there's going to be a white dude that wants to make an example out of you. There's always going to be a white dude that wants to get at you. And in due time, they will. He said, but very seldom is a race that you're not part of going to have your back. He said it does happen, but it's very, very seldom. I could go on for a long time with all the stuff we talked about, but I want to save some stuff for the Dirty Weather thing and the Nate Dogg thing to have them speak on. There was literally so many differences when it came to the West and the East, even as far as just the things they're allowed to have in the prison, the transportation processing, the way they sell up. All these things are way, way different than out here. And I want to reiterate this again. Had I been out West and I had to go into a prison where they say, hey, you automatically go over there, that's what I would have done. Not no guy that's going to come in and change the prison. You don't change the prison will change you. You don't come in and put things into play. You go in and play the game the way that everybody else plays. You don't go against the grain. If anybody says, y'all be doing things wrong out East, there is no y'all. I did not make the rules. I did not dictate anything that takes place in the prisons. Everything that I walked into, it was like that before I got there, and it was like that after I left. Same thing goes to the West. When I hear people say, oh, well, if you was out West and you was with the Woods or you got in the wood pile when you came into the prison, that's racist. I can agree to disagree. Because if you came in as a white guy and they said you go over there or everybody's going to kill you, you are going over there. Miss me with the tough guy. No, I wouldn't have. I would have done this. I would have done that. It's easy to say until you're in there and you're surrounded by everybody and everybody's looking at you and you're expected to do one thing and then you make a decision to do something different. And in your decision making, there's no one to back you. Everybody comes at you. Like I said, you don't change the prison will change you. So then there's the politics, different types of gangs, prison levels, consequences, the way guys get it, sex offenders, the communications, the do's and don'ts when it comes to the officers, the separating of cities. There's all that stuff that comes along as well. But like I said, we will save that for another video. I hope y'all enjoyed today's video with just some small breakdowns of the similarities and differences in the West Coast and the East Coast. If you're watching this and you know, if you caught it today, it is Friday, which means it is payday. Gotta get this money, gotta get my guys paid. Money comes out my pocket to pay the guys. I gotta make sure these checks go in the account to put the money back in my pocket and to be able to continue to pay the guys. I hope everybody had a great week and everybody has an amazing weekend. Happy early 4th of July. I salute y'all, I love y'all, and I hope everybody stays safe this weekend. But anyways, these jails, detention centers, these prisons, these facilities, they're all just crazy worlds inside of a already crazy world we live in. And as always, y'all know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to keep y'all entertained. Are you not entertained? And like always, this is Jay Williams. Let's live life. And to all my real ones, and there are some real ones watching, because y'all still watching me. Man, y'all know how we do. Salute. Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?